So if you, again, haven't been following me, um, long story short, as short as I can make it, back in September of 2018, I decided to give God more control over my life. I wanted to get to know Him better. I wanted to have a real relationship with Him versus just the religion type relationship that I've grown up with in church and things like that. So in September of last year, I began what's called journal praying. And since doing that, God has had a lot of supernatural miracles and experiences happen in my life. And originally, I didn't know why, but over time, He has revealed that they all happen for a purpose. And I'm grateful now, but of course, going through the experiences, not as fun. So He's taken me through a series of tests for me to actually share those experiences with you all. And I'm very appreciative of it. So I'll kind of tell you all a little bit more about that. But like I said, today's message, I may or may not have said it, sorry, but today's message is actually on consistency. So one thing about consistency for me is my whole life, consistency has not been one of my big things. So I like to say, other than waking up and breathing, consistency was just not my forte. So when I decided I want to build a relationship with God outside of religion, excuse me, and I started doing it through journal praying, He began revealing a lot of things about myself, about my relationships, like my familiar relationships, my marriage, my career, things like that. He started revealing more of those things to me. And so my ability to be consistent grew, but only in this area for then, because I started to see the benefits and I was seeing that God was really trying to communicate with me. He really did want me to hear from Him. So um, I have a friend who introduced this to me, and there's like several steps, or only about 6 steps really, of how I do the journal praying. And in that time, you have quiet time where you actually sit and you listen for God's voice. So in doing that, it has really transformed my life, um, and made me more consistent. So not only in that area, but other areas. And I'm still working because obviously I'm supposed to be doing these lives for 90 days. This is probably about my third. So if you haven't been following, go back and check out the last couple ones. I did one on the last one was on procrastination, and the one before that was fear. Um, so I'll be doing a lot more. Um, Journal praying led to me breaking the habit of practicing religion and building a relationship with God. And all of a sudden, the God that I was learning more about personally became a whole different God than the one that I learned about growing up in church. And I don't mean that in a bad way, and I don't mean that like to have any shade towards how I learned in church, but you learn a lot a lot more when you have an actual relationship with someone, period. So doing that, and along the journey, He had me learning even more about myself, and then like my relationships, like I said before. And then He finally revealed my purpose and part of the plan that He had for me. And so a couple of months later, He told me to write. So I did. I didn't know what I was writing. I didn't know why I was writing. And He was taking me through all of these experiences, um, that I had, again, no idea why. But um, later on, they revealed, I like to call it a rerouting stage. So He took me through isolation, where He separated and kind of cleared out friends that were, um, I don't, He had His own reason for clearing out friends. He had His own reason for, um, again, isolating me so that I could focus on Him. Um, Identity, like I said, He revealed more of my identity to me. He revealed his purpose for me, and he gave me clarity, direction, and instruction on what he wanted me to do with what he was sharing with me. So I remained consistent because he promised my breakthrough, and I trusted that if he brought me to these experiences, then he was obviously the only one that could bring me through them. And besides that, I had committed to doing whatever he told me to do. I committed to being radically obedient. I committed to having an uncommon faith in him because, one, I was tired of being responsible for my own decisions. Obviously, I wasn't fulfilled with the direction my life was going in, and the only person who would actually be able to help me and get me on the right track is the one person who created me and had a plan for me before I was even born. So I gave him my yes in January of this year, and that's when he actually pulled me out of my licensed professional career. I had been a speech language pathologist for 4 years, and the day that we were supposed to go back to school, he told me I was no longer returning. I thought he meant no longer returning to one of the jobs I had, and turns out he meant I was not returning back to the field at all. Instead, he told me to write, so I did. And about a month later, he told me it was a book. About a month later, he told me to publish it. I did all these things. So, as I said in my last couple lives, now is not the time for me to stop being obedient because A, I've come too far, and B, I need and wanted his direction. And I know that that's the only way that I'll end up with the life that I really truly desire to have. So, most of my experiences were out of the ordinary that my were so out of the ordinary that my only option was to seek and trust whatever he told me. The more I trusted, the more I was tested, and the more consistency, that was required. I began being consistent in reading my Bible and other books. I was consistent in praying and fasting. I was consistent in saying my daily affirmations, and I was consistent in focusing on and being aware of all things mental, my mindset, my thoughts, my words that I speak, and my emotions. Your emotions are a result of where your mind is. So they begin with a thought, and that thought turns into an emotion that reflects the nature of that thought. So, for example, if you tell yourself that you're going to have a good day and you actually believe it, you're more likely to actually have a good day. And of course, it gets a little bit more complex, but it's really not that difficult or really not that complicated. So your emotions begin with the thoughts that you have, and those thoughts that you have also produce the words that come out of your mouth. So those are things that I really was focusing on, and I still focus on. Um, and I'm aware that nothing happens overnight, and that's why you have to be consistent. You have to be consistent in your actions, thoughts, motives, and in your heart. So it's genuine. I remember when I was blogging for the first time, and it was very, very short period of time. And why was it a short period of time? Inconsistency, of course. I'd written just a few blogs, posted those, and then once those were done, I had to get back to writing again. Fail on my part, but it happens. So during my blogging experience, I learned a lot about this concept called double-mindedness. And it wasn't a concept, it was actually biblical. But I got into it more. I go into it more in my book, ReRouting. And I have the link up in the in the caption for you if you want to check it out. There's a free preview there as well as the link to purchase. But I go into more detail about double-mindedness in there. So, but in short, double-mindedness is a state of confusion. It's inconsistent thinking and practices, saying one thing and doing another, of easily being swayed in decision making. I discovered this while I was looking for what spiritual practices best fit me. So I know many of you may have heard of The Secret or Law of Attraction. people using sage, people praising or speaking to the universe. I say in quotes the universe, as if like the universe can give them a response to anything, because the universe doesn't do that. God created the universe, so everything that comes to us is from God. It's pretty simple, but that's a whole different conversation. I was always a Christian and Baptist, but I didn't know exactly to the detail that I know now what those terms meant. And I only knew religion and not relationship. So because of this, I was making a hodgepodge of religious practices, religious and spiritual practices, like yoga and meditation, with the law of attraction, with the secret and mindfulness. And I was almost willing to try anything to make me feel better, to make me feel freer, to feel at peace, etc., etc. And then, funny enough, as I was researching more into those things, I saw more people start using like crystals and stuff. And so, while crystals are very pretty, um, that's where I kind of drew the line, and I started hearing more. I started hearing more about their healing benefits, and I wasn't too sure about that. So I'm sure that would have been the next thing had I not felt some type of hesitancy before going that route. And what the hesitancy really was God redirecting me and telling me that that was not of Him. All those other practices, speaking to the universe, law of attraction, um, yoga, and that type of meditation are not of Him. So He began redirecting me back to His Word and back to Him. And that was all before I started journal praying in September. But it was when I started journal praying that He was pointing these things out. Um, so, like I said, God wasn't having that, and He educated me real quick in James 4:8, where He speaks about double-mindedness. I never wanted to lead anyone astray or into confusion, so obviously I had to make it a decision for myself and be consistent and committed to it. And that's what the direction that I began going in my blog before God stopped me and I started spending more time with Him. So I chose to go with what I know, and had one thing that's always been true, even if only I knew on the surface level. What I did know was that when I was younger and battling like suicidal thoughts, when I was literally a broke college student, but I never experienced hunger, I never experienced homelessness or utility disconnection, or when I was in car accidents that should have taken me and my family's lives, when I thought my marriage was over, when I felt like I was failing as a wife, when I was feeling lost and unfulfilled in my career, there was still one consistent piece. God always protected me. He was always there, whether I really realized it then or not, you know? So, what could possibly keep me from being consistent with Him or the things that He's blessed me with now? He's always made miracles happen, and He's always protected me, always provided. Again, when I knew of nothing else, I've been saved, you know? So it was for many reasons that I trust Him now, and I'm trying every day to be radically obedient. Like, I don't want to be in obedience. I don't want to turn my head again or turn my faith again in any other direction. I don't want to show any signs of double-mindedness, because I do know um, who has had my back consistently my whole life. Um, this is also why I trust that the messages that He has for you, that He's sending through me, will be life-changing and remind you of who He has been your whole life, if you really think about it. If you can't recall who He's been to you, then I encourage you to start now and consider where it could have been His grace and protection on you or on the people even around you, and you didn't know how or why you made it through. Think about a time when there were consequences of an action or decision worked out way better than it should have in reality. He truly never fails us, but we fail Him every day. Yet He continues to love us and be there for us again on a consistent basis. So one thing that I've really learned is that consistency is the key to your breakthrough. It's how you build. It what were you building? What if you were building a house, but you weren't consistent with how you laid the foundation? Or if you only heard "I love you" from your significant other every now and then? What if your paycheck was inconsistent? Or what if your utilities were inconsistent, even though you pay them regularly? Consistency. In the courses that I'll be teaching in the School of Predestined Purpose, I share how to get over those things that are standing in your way that are keeping you from progressing and getting to where you want to be in life. Um, Journal praying, for example, changed my life. And again, that was something that I decided to do consistently because of the ways that it was helping me to get to where I want to be in life. And even if I'm not able to get to my journal on any given day, I still take the time to have conversation throughout my day with God. In January, I said I made him my CEO for a reason. And when I say I made him my CEO, that means he has um, control, responsibility, say over every area in my life. Every morning I wake up and I pray and I ask him what he wants me to do for the day. Again, if he pulled me out of my job, that means he's going to tell me what to do every day. Or pull me out of my career, that means he's going to tell me what to do every day. So I lean on him to do that, and he does, which I'm very grateful for. But that's only because I've consistently been building that relationship with him. And so at this point, my communication with him has to be consistent by any means necessary. So whether I'm thanking him, mad at him, loving him, or praising him, we talk consistently in the School of Predestined Purpose, we will combat those barriers and excuses like consistency, or inconsistency rather, procrastination and fear, as I've talked about in the last couple lives, in order to get you back on track to being fulfilled, purposeful, and living in the life that you truly desire to live in, for yourself and for the future of your family. It's never too late to make this change in life. It's never too late to change your reality. It's never too late to begin living in your God-given purpose, because at any point in life, God can reroute you. And that's one of the, you know, one thing that you can trust and depend on. Instead of being where you are, I would really encourage you to register for my webinar, Execution Over Excuses. I have the link in the caption up above, and I'll be again going into more detail about how to get over these barriers, like inconsistencies in your routine, inconsistencies in even your thoughts and your mindset, things like that, because that's where I had to start. And to hear firsthand about the beginning of my personal journey and to get the tools and tidbits from God Himself that He sent to me to share with you all, I would really check out ReRouting. Again, the link is in the caption above, where you can get the preview or you can order both on the same link. So I'd love to hear from you all and hear your thoughts on consistency, inconsistencies, if that's a barrier for you. Is that something that you have done well with, or that you've struggled with? I really want to hear back from you all as well. That's really all I have for tonight. Pray for me that I can make it through these 90 days more consistently, for both you and for myself. I want to get over that barrier, and I know that these messages are timely from God for you, and I am just the vessel that He is sending the message through. So pray for me that I am able to get back to you guys sooner than later. But that is all I have for tonight, and I thank you all who have joined me and who are watching, and I can't wait to speak with you all again soon. You all have a blessed evening and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Good night.